Hello everyone, this is Pranay. My register number is UR14CS299. Today I'll be talking about distributed database query processing. So before we get into this topic, we need to understand what is a distributed database. As we all know, database is something where all the data is stored in a structured manner so that we can get the required data easily through processing the query. In a distributed database, what happens is this database is distributed across several sites as in it could be distributed many places around the world for efficiency purposes or to get the IO operations to reduce the IO operations and many more. So today we will be seeing how the query processing will take place in such environment, that is distributed database. Please consider that in this kind of query processing, the end user or the person who has made the query is unaware of the background actions, which means this distributed database that is known as distributed database independence, whereas the end user is unaware of what goes behind this environment. So just imagine a place where there are multiple employees working and there are people and there's one boss. Okay, imagine that situation and keep an image of that in your mind. Before that, let's proceed with our PPT. So first, what happens in a normal query processing? The same query process will go on in in any database, be it a normal one, a centralized database, or a distributed one. So what happens first is parsing and translation, where everything is verified. The second, we optimize it using an optimized evaluation plan. Whichever is the lowest cost query plan will optimize accordingly, and then we'll evaluate to the query execution engine, and that's how the end user will get his or her answer. So in distributed query processing, what happens? So it transforms a high level query on a distributed database into equivalent and efficient lower level queries on relational fragments. In normal sense, or normal being, it's similar to a place where there is a higher authority. That higher authority has many lower authorities under him who will work under that higher authority. So when a higher authority is given a job, he gives the same job to these multiple people. They get their own answers for that same job and give it back to the higher authority. And after processing by the higher authority, he'll answer back to the person who has asked that question. So it's a similar thing happens in a distributed query processing. So for that case, their distributed query processing is a little bit more complex because there is fragmentation and replication of relations. What do you mean by fragmentation? Fragmentation is same to the meaning. Fragmentation means dividing the relations, you know, on various sites for efficient database query processing. Also reduce the IO. Replication is of the relations is done so that uh, some relations could be which is a hotspot which is being accessed frequently. We can replicate that to many sites, and from that, if a query happens, if someone is put in a query, that can be processed easily since it's a hotspot. So replication helps in that, and there are some additional communication costs, and there's also a parallel execution. So there's always some pros and cons to a centralized and a distributed database, but overall distributed database in a world proves much better, proves to be a much better solution. Okay, there's also query optimization. Now the query optimization can be depends it depends upon the networks, how what kind of a network it is. Okay, the bandwidth, the speed, the protocol, whether it is a local area network, whether it is a wide area network, depends upon that. And mainly, a query cost is determined by the I/O cost, CPU cost, and the communication cost. The total cost is determined that. And based on all these, the minimum of all these would be the best optimized evaluation plan, and accordingly the query will be processed. This thing you would have studied in the query processing of a normal centralized database. All these things also occur at a distributed database, but there is one thing different. Remember the image that I've asked you to remember. Okay, so these can be the operation complexity. If it's a select, if it's a project, group, join, semi-join, what kind of their cost could be and their complexities. Query optimization issues. What kind of optimization issues can occur? We have to select if it's a centralized, if it's a distributed environment, if it's a hybrid environment. These, what kind of problems can occur? If it's a centralized, it's everything is there, but the IO is more, it's less, it's less, what do you call, efficient. In distributed environment, it's much better. It's everywhere. you know Local information stored is needed in that particular database. Depends upon the area, wherever it is that particular query is processed according to that area, right? So these are some issues that may happen for in case of a query optimization. Now, what happens in a distributed query processing? Today's topic. So as I told you, imagine a boss sitting there asking his employees to do the work. A similar case happens in this situation. What happens? There is a calculus query on distributed relations. There is query decomposition. As the query is, is a it means that the query is being understood. What is the query? What goes around it? Now, data localization happens. Now the fragment of the query is sent, and that data is optimized. That query is optimized. So it's similar case that happens. So it means that this is a global thing. It's called a control side. It's similar to a boss doing all the main work, and he understands what goes around in this environment, as in what kind of a question it is, what I need to do, who can handle this question, and to whom should I send this query, and all that. And after getting answers to all these questions, he sends this query to a particular site, and that site will get the answers for this query. Mind that the site can be one or more than one sites, so it depends upon that. It will be sent to one site, or it could be sent to multiple sites, and that's how the query will be answered back. So this is what happens in a distributed query processing system. So this is all the this is the conclusion. Today we have learned about what is a distributed system, what are the various query processing, how we can optimize the query, what are the issues of those query, and what really happens in distributed environment. What happens in a distributed environment query processing. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you have a nice day. Bye bye.